Welcome to 720 and 720. Once again, I'm John Schulman. We have a high-level guest for this first round NCAA tournament that starts really later on this evening. Kevin Giltner from Wofford, who is now the seventh seed. They kind of screwed the Southern Conference by winning the tournament, or we would probably have two teams in the Southern Conference from the NCAA tournament. Welcome, Kevin Giltner, to 720 and 720.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This is going to be a blast, and we're fired up over here in Spartanburg.
I'd say you're fired up. You know, I don't know, what seed. Let me ask you this. What seed did you want to be? What was the goal?
To be honest, we wanted anything other than an 8 or 9. We thought we deserved anywhere between a 5 or a 7. Obviously, we would want a 5, but, if you look at the metrics and the Ken Palm and all that jazz, I mean, it suggested that we could be a 5. But getting 7 is awesome. Highest seed, I think, ever in the Southern Conference. We're the highest rated team in the AP, top 25 ever. I mean, we can't complain. We're pretty fired up, and we'll play anybody anywhere.
That means that Mike Young is a way better coach than Bob McKillop. Is that what that means? Are you saying that on this podcast, Kevin? Are you saying that? Are you ready to make that statement?
I will say that because I think he's one of the best coaches in America. I really do. Bob McKillop is certainly a heck of a coach, but I'll take our guy over anybody.
Well, if your guy, here's what I want to know, a couple of things. If your guy can take a white redneck from Kingston Springs that never defended in his life and became a high-level defender at Wofford, and I ain't talking about anybody but you, something's going on with your culture, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but something's going on with your culture at Wofford that started many years ago that I guess if you don't conform, you're out, I guess. Tell me about that.
That's exactly right. I mean, we have a sign up in our locker room and lounge area. We don't become you become us, and I think everybody's kind of bought into that, this past decade, and we've had some really, really good players here, and we've had some deep teams, John, and I think that is what makes people so competitive, man. Like you said, you better get with it or get lost, because you have 3 or 4 days where you have a bad practice, you're forgot about. So if I didn't start defending, I'd have been somewhere else, and I'm glad I chose to do that and got coached by some of the best, and realized that if I don't do that, this old boy right here be back in Kingston Springs faster than I could think.
Yeah, well, you got a Sonic off your exit, so you've been in great shape.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so these podcasts are to help, whether it be young coaches or old coaches or business leaders or players, and you just hit on something that was phenomenal, because I've learned so much from these podcasts. All right, so we don't become you, you become us. Is that what y'all in your locker room?
Yeah, you know what? We don't even talk about it. We really don't. We don't even talk about it. It's just something that has kind of developed around here. We got some really good players here that we as coaches had nothing to do with. They just come here and they're really good players, and you know what? They conform. They buy in. Whatever Coach Young says, that's it. I'm in. And I think that's because he's proven himself as a coach over these last 10 years, and these guys just want to win a championship, and they know Coach Young knows how to do it. And this is a championship program, and people want a piece of that pie. Fletcher McGee, Cam Jackson, our guys that are seniors, they want to say they went to the NCAA tournament, not just because they broke all these records, scoring records, 3-point records, what have you. They want a championship, and they know the best way to do that is get with it or get lost.
Well, it's amazing. Giltner, I don't know if you know all of my history, but I was at Wofford when Wofford was really bad. I was at Wofford. The first time I was at Wofford, we were Division II and we were really good.
Yep.
And then I came back to Wofford and helped those guys like 96, 97, and they were making the transition from D2 to D1. At that time, you were like in purgatory. You had to be in like transitional jail for like 43 years that you
That's
could not
impossible.
play in the NCAA tournament. You couldn't do anything, and you were kind
No
of
league,
stuck.
right? You weren't even in a league.
We weren't in a league, and then we got in the Southern, but we still weren't able to play in the tournament in the Southern. So we were just kind of right in the middle. But from that moment, you're playing in Benjamin Johnson Arena at one time you're playing on a tartan court. From that to what y'all have done now to like demand and expect a 7 seed to be ranked in the top 25 in the country. I don't know. Mike Young switched gears a little bit. You play with Dahlman, correct?
Yep, I did 3 years.
All right. So were you there before Dahlman?
Dahlman came in year before me, so he was a freshman when I was a senior in high school.
I give Mike Young a lot of credit, and he deserves so much credit. It's almost like Rick Byrd a little bit.
Yeah.
Rick Byrd, everybody in the country thinks Rick Byrd and Mike Young are the greatest coaches in the world, and they are phenomenal coaches. But I tell you, the best thing they've done to me is they've recruited guys that fit who they are.
Oh, that's exactly right.
You got the meanest dudes. I was a little concerned over there coaching against you that I was going to get my tail end whipped. You got the meanest, toughest, competitive dudes in the world. And so I want to kind of go back to recruiting because, I think Noah Dahlman changed the whole complexion of Wofford. I think
You're exactly right.
I think he changed everything. The guy never said boo. He was a white kid, 6'6", that I don't think he ever had a dunk at Wofford, and he was the most phenomenal.
No dunks and no threes.
No dunks and no threes. But he changed. But I think he changed your whole culture. And tell me, as you're looking for players, what are you looking for? Because for whatever reason, I think your kids play with an edge to them. I don't know if they come with that edge or they get that edge there. But I think that you got some of the most competitive guys in the country.
If I've heard Coach Young say it once, I've heard him say it 100 times. If they don't bite as a pup, they ain't going to bite as a dog. And no pun intended, but it's true. Like, you got to be a tough dude coming into this thing. You got to be a guy that is competitive as all get out. Absolutely would run over his mother to get a win. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of doing that. You look at Fletcher McGee, he's not the most demonstrative tough dude. Like, he's not going to run you over. He's not like Dennis Rodman out there. But he's tough in the aspect that he lives in the gym. Doesn't matter if his feet are sore. He played 40 minutes the night before. He's got a Charlie horse. Doesn't matter if he's got a turned ankle. He's going to be in that gym at 7 a.m. the next day. You mark it down. It's 100% going to happen. So he lives in the gym, and that is a toughness that maybe people don't talk about. People think about toughness as in, knocking somebody out. But this dude is mentally and physically tough because he never relaxes. And, we've had the Rundles and the Diggs and the Dahlmans, and the Johnsons, the Martins, the list could go on and on. And to be honest, for me as a player, I wasn't the toughest dude ever. I came into this environment and I learned how to be tough. Brad Losey, I give him a lot of credit. He made me a tougher dude. He was my roommate for 4 years. He made me a tougher dude, and I just think that when you have a majority, if not all your guys on your team are tough, that is contagious, number one, but you've got to have that in you from the jump. And so we look at that, when we're out on the road. Is this kid got good body language? Is he diving on the floor for a ball at 8 a.m. on a Friday after he's played 4 games the day before? Stuff like that. That stuff's so important to us. That's easy to point out, but I think at some point you got to be willing to sacrifice toughness for talent. And I think, yes, we want talented guys, we want skilled guys, we want all that, but you got to be tough, man. Like Dahlman, Dahlman, he's 6'4". You gave him 6'6". I'm not giving him 6'6". I'm giving him 6'4". Couldn't jump over a Spartanburg phone book, but dude was tough. And, you sacrifice the length and the athleticism for a guy that's tough, and guess what? It worked out.
Well, your toughness is taking you to – I came to your Citadel game. Hoover makes a 3, and I promise you he wanted to fight everybody in the gym. And I was like, that dude just made the 3, and he wanted to kill everybody. And he's single. To me, I've been in the situation y'all were in. I was at East Tennessee State. We were ranked top 20 in the country, and we felt like we had to win the tournament. And
Yep.
and no, you all didn't have to win the tournament, but you wanted to win the tournament, and you probably put that kind of pressure on yourself. To be in that championship game and everybody's struggling a little bit, you got to have one guy that's kind of step up. And Hoover, my gracious, they stepped up and he made some shots. He's a tough guy. So toughness,
Man, he's emotional.
toughness is your kind of your mojo at Wofford. And so I want guys to understand and young coaches to understand. You said something pretty important there. If the majority of your team is tough, everybody is going to join the majority. If the majority of your team is soft, or we've talked a couple podcasts ago about cancer. If you've got too many cancers on your team, everybody's going to go to them. And then if you got 3 cancers, you're like, well, you got 15 guys. That's okay. No, each cancer, just like the real cancer, spreads.
Oh yeah.
And each one of those guys is going to take 2 guys with them or 3 guys with them, and then all of a sudden you got 9 guys who got the cancer, and you got 6 guys doing it. The majority of your team, if the majority of your team is tough, then all of a sudden that's what you became, right? Because you weren't
Absolutely.
the toughest dude in the world.
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, I was a skilled, lanky, skinny, white suburban jump shooter, and like you said, I better get with it or get lost. And I just, that stuff just eroded to me, you know, over my career where I got to start defending. I got to start, you know, I'm going to live in the gym. I'm going to work on my game. I'm going to, you know, physically, I'm not going to be battered. I'm going to be ready to roll. And that stuff, I know that stuff has happened to everybody in our team. Like you said, since probably those Dahlman days. I know people laid the foundation before that, the Drew Gibsons, the Howard Wilkersons, those types. But it's crazy how that works, you know. It really is contagious. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a little bit of that in you before you get here. You got to, you know, or else you're going to come here and you're like, ooh, you know, I don't really like all this. You know, I don't really like how tough these dudes are, man. They're demanding a lot of me, and I'm physically sore, and mentally I'm drained. I don't really like this. So you got to have a little bit of that in you from the jump, and I think we've done a good job of finding that.
Well, okay, talk to us about, and you said something, I'll go to that first. You said not battered physically. Tell me how you stay help young guys, help young players right now. How do you stay not battered physically during a grueling season? What do you need to do to become a better player, and so you're not kind of beat up all the time?
Well, I think Coach Jones done a great job of this as he's come along these past 10 years, and I've been with him the past 10 years, so I've seen some of the changes. But he's learning that you can have a great practice in an hour and a half, as long as you're getting after it, you know. And so we're not going 3 hours right now. Obviously, nobody in America is doing that, so that's nothing genius, right? But our guys do a lot of skill development on their own. We get after it in practice. It's in short bursts. But then after, our guys do a great job of recovery. You know, and all the technology nowadays with the Normatec boots, the ice baths, you know, the massagers, all that stuff. And our guys have done a great job. And I think Fletcher McGee deserves all this credit. I really do, because this is contagious too. He treats his body and he acts like a pro. You know, whether that's recovery, whether that's rehab, whether that's hydration, whether that's sleep. All that stuff is so important nowadays, and especially with what we're demanding of them physically, you've got to do that just as much as you do work on your game. You know, you can't work on your game for 3 hours a day and then not work on your recovery too. You can't work on your game for 2 hours after a practice or after a game when you struggled and then not take an ice bath. And those guys have really bought into that, and they see Fletcher and the success that he's had. And this dude does it better than anybody I've ever seen. He really does. He's always got the Normatec boots on. He's always icing. He's always stretching. He's got all these little contraptions and stuff, and that bleeds to our program. It really does. So, you know, that's something but no one wants to go stretch for 30 minutes, right, John? No one wants to say, I'm gonna go down the gym and I'm gonna stretch. Who does that?
Nobody.
You know, but that's part of being a pro, and they treat themselves like they're pros.
Well, I just watched Paul George talk about how his diet.
Yes.
How he changed his diet, and after 2 weeks of changing his diet, he felt so different. He started sleeping better. He gets to sleep earlier, and it's really changed his entire game. And young guys don't understand that. Young guys on the phone, young guys are playing Fortnite, young guys are screwing around. But all it takes is one guy, and
Yep.
it sounds like McGee was that guy for you.
Yeah, he does a good job of balancing, having fun too. You know, like he's gonna go have fun on a weeknight with the guys and enjoy it. And he's not some sort of robot, but I think that makes him more relatable.
Well,
If this guy can do it, then I can do it, type of deal. So you're exactly right.
so
Taking care
he's
of your
getting
body.
so he's getting sleep. He's doing all the stuff. He's eating
Oh, gosh.
right. Does your team eat right? Do y'all eat right on the road? Do y'all eat right?
One of the best things that Coach Young has ever done in his coaching career was fight for a strength and conditioning coach for our program only. We got it this year for the first time. He travels with us. He does our travel. He does everything. He does our meals. Every meal that our team eats, he does. He does all of our lifts, and it's just for us. He's not a guy that does football and baseball and golf and tennis and track. And he's just us. He's with our program. He's on our staff. He's in our offices. And that has been unbelievable for our guys would lose 10, 15, 20 pounds during the season. Now our guys are maybe even gaining weight, and we're lifting in hotels. We're doing 4 or 5 lifts a week. Now, they're not long lifts, but some of them are recovery lifts, injury prevention. And lo and behold, knock on wood, we're in a pretty good spot there body-wise, and we do eat well. So I think all that stuff plays a part in us being where we're at right now. I really do. And I think that, X's and O's, those are very, very important. But I think he, as a strength and conditioning coach, may be the most important piece that we've added to this program in the history of the program, to be honest with you.
That's a high-level statement because I know y'all's history. All right, let me go to a couple different things. McGee,
Yeah.
You said McGee kind of works out on his own, and he's tough because he's in the gym. How often, try to help young players here. How often is he in the gym during the season, off-season? What's his routine? I mean, this guy, and then I'm going to talk to you about the rest of the guys because some of the shots he shoots, oh, my God, it turned my hair gray, and I don't even coach him. All right. But let's start with what is his routine? Because you're talking about if he does what he's supposed to do on Thursday, later on tonight, I guess. If he does what he's supposed to do, he'll be the greatest three-point shooter in the history of the NCAA. Correct?
That's right.
Okay. So how did he get this unbelievable athlete from Florida, Fletcher McGee? How did he become that?
It's unbelievable how much he's in the gym. Like, we literally have to have meetings with him sometimes to say, hey, dude, stop. Like, get out of the gym. He's in there that much. Every single morning, every day after practice. And he does it smart. Now, he's not in there shooting 500 shots on the gun. He doesn't even use the gun, the shoot-away machine. He's doing 30 to 45 minutes of game shots on the move, running full speed, stopping on a dime, turning and shooting. So those shots you see him take and make are shots that he's done thousands of times.
Yeah.
Thousands of times. He doesn't shoot spot-up threes. You know why? Because he never gets a spot-up three. When's the last time he just walked into a three? That doesn't happen.
Nope.
So everything he does is how can I beat my defender to that spot, rise up over him and shoot, whether it's off the dribble, whether it's off of a screen, which obviously we do a lot of pin-aways and screen downs and stuff. But it's to the point where it's obsessive. It's obsessive, and it's worked for him. And I mean, he does stuff, John. Like, he'll run sprints for 10 minutes after practice. And we're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I got to get super tired here because I'm about to get some shots up." Well, why would you do that? Because I'm always dead dog tired in a game. You know what I'm saying? So he's running full-length suicides, getting dead dog tired where he can barely breathe, and then he's shooting these shots off the move. Like, he is so. He's beyond, and then he shoots his free throw. He works on his free throws with no legs. We're like, dude, use your legs. Of course, we don't tell him anything anymore, right? He's the best free throw shooter maybe in the country. Yeah. Use your legs. Use your legs. He's like, no, why would I use my legs? Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I'm fresh. My free throw is going to be all on. So he's thinking these things that no one really thinks about, and we don't coach him. I promise you that. Everything that he's done is self-made.
Well, but I go back to, as for college coaches here, I go back to Mike Young is a great coach because he knows, because he does his due diligence on the front end. I mean, nobody would have recruited Noah Dahlman. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And he changed the whole program. No offense to Drew Gibson and all those guys, but I mean,
you're exactly right. They know that.
We beat Drew Gibson a few times. Noah Dahlman was a little harder for us to beat. But if you get guys, and that's the hardest thing in recruiting, and the hardest thing in coaching, I think, is trying to find out what's underneath that left pec muscle. Is what kind of heart those guys got and what type of work ethic those guys got. And we did a podcast with Charlton Young at Florida State, and he said very simple, the 3 things that they look for in a player. I know they look for length at Florida State, and you got to be 7'2", but here's the 3 things: championship character, all right, being high energy, and being a gym rat.
Yep.
So give me Fletcher McGee. Has he got championship character?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
is he high energy?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And is he a gym rat?
Yeah, he lives in there. He's more than a gym rat. Charlton Young is exactly right. I mean, those things will win you a lot of games.
And so now all of a sudden you got one guy, and as coaches, if your best player is your hardest worker, then you're in great shape. And it sounds like your best player is your hardest worker, correct?
Yeah, no doubt, and ain't no doubt about it. And we've got a bunch of dudes that work extremely, extremely hard, and Fletcher McGee's the hardest. He is, no question about it.
All right, Mike Young, and this is an old thing from Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight said, listen, this is, let's say we take 60 shots in a game, and we got 5 players. Everybody doesn't get 12 shots. This is not a democracy.
Right.
The best shooters take all the shots. Tell me, and I would say a bunch of high school coaches struggle with this too. You've got one guy. I mean, Fletcher McGee takes shots that are unbelievable.
Yep.
And I see Cam Jackson, I see the rest of those guys, and there's no jealousy. There's no, come
None.
on, man, move the ball. How did you get to that point? Because I knew at one time that you had to come to a breaking point going, this is how this is going to work. How did you get to that point?
Well, I mean, I think first off, they see him working on it, and they see him make it. And guess what? They try to guard that in practice, and he still hits it. So they start to understand real quick, okay, this dude's the real deal. Like they've gotten burnt on all his, sprint away threes so many times in practice and seeing it go in and seeing him working his tail off after practice. But it got to the point where no one even says anything to him. No one does. I think they realize, they do individual workouts with him. They realize who this guy is. But you're right. It comes to this point where, hey, we're going to throw the ball into this guy right here, Cam Jackson, and we're going to get shots for this guy right here, Fletcher McGee. This is what we're doing. If you don't like it, then come up to my office and we'll chat about it. Not one guy came up to the office to talk about it. But those guys are such good guys. It's not like they're out there like, give me the ball. I should have shot that. That has not happened one time on this team all year long. And they're great guys and they work hard, so no one says anything to them. Now, if they were jerks, bad teammates, and took, I guess you could say Fletcher takes some bad shots, but he also makes them, so they're good shots. But they don't take ridiculous shots to where you're like, come on, man. Like, Fletcher's going to make the extra pass. Cameron's going to kick it out if he gets doubled. Things like that. So high-character dudes that are unselfish, but they also know you should be taking that shot, right? You got it, Fletcher. You got to take that shot, and he's certainly not afraid of it. So that's never really gotten to be a problem because Coach Young lays it out pretty clearly.
I bet he does. No, I just think young coach. I think coaches that are listening to this, you got a program, Wofford. Now, how many students y'all have now at Wofford?
1,650 probably.
Golly, y'all are. 1,650. 1,650, and you're competing against programs and universities that got 30,000 students.
That's right.
And so what you all have found a niche. So I'm just telling young coaches and older coaches and different programs, toughness. Toughness matters and work ethic matters. And when it comes down, because I'll tell you about toughness, everybody's good in November.
Yep.
But when it gets to be late February or middle February, the dog days hit you.
Boy.
The tough guys prevail, and the guys who ain't tough are thinking about spring break because they're exhausted. And people make fun. People say, "Hey, no way that teams playing in the NCAA, playing in like conference tournaments, are thinking about spring break instead." I think absolutely half the teams. Do you agree or disagree?
1,000% agree. 1,000%. And even if they're not thinking it outright, hey, man, I'm ready for this thing to be over. At the other end of it, they wouldn't be upset if it ended.
No, absolutely not.
Saying? They wouldn't be upset if it ended. So am I gonna, if that's creeping in your brain, you know what? If this thing ended, I'm good. Yeah, then you're not gonna win. You know that you're not gonna win. But if you're like, if this thing ends, my life is ruined. I've got to win this game. I'm giving it. You're gonna have a couple more wins in that late stretch in those dog days. So you're exactly right. 100% agree with you.
Loyola last year made that run, and I know you got to get lucky some. And they make that run. They got like 8 state champions on their team, 7 or 8 state champions on their team. And
Yep.
and you look at that, and I know you're signing guys early, but and you got a Zach Irvin. Zach Irvin's a winner, man. I mean, and he's getting ready to come to you. I mean, I know they won a state championship his junior year, and I'm assuming you can talk about him because you've already signed him, correct?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
All right, but I'm just going to tell you get champions.
Yes.
It's weird.
That's important.
You get champions, they become champions in college because
Yep.
champions like climbing up on that ladder and cutting down those nets. And it's contagious. And
Yes.
winning a ring is contagious. So if you can get champions in high school, most of those champions in high school become champions in college. Or they change the character of it.
It's gotten even down to the point where some of our walk-ons, have won state champions. It's state championships. That is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. The guys who win, guys who are coached, guys who are used to being successful and expect to be successful. Not guys who were on a 7-23 team, but they scored 25 points a game. That doesn't really work out, right? You got guys that maybe average 14, 15 a game on a team, but man, they go a deep run every single year. And you're exactly right. We have a strong, we look for those guys. We look for guys who won championships because, like you said, that translates. It really does.
Well, we did a podcast with Dane Bradshaw. You remember Dane, right?
Oh yeah.
So Dane Bradshaw was Gatorade Player of the Year, won 3 state championships at White Station, highest level, highest division in Tennessee. Gatorade Player of the Year, recruited by everybody in the world, and Dane averaged 9.4 points a game. He averaged 9 points a game, and by the end of his career at Tennessee, he was getting close to championship level again at the highest level. And so, I mean, he helped Bruce Pearl turn that thing around at Tennessee. And so you don't have, to me, you show me a guy that's, and I know there's rare occasions, but you show me a guy averaging 30 and their team is 2-28, I'll show you a loser. And yeah, absolutely, he may, but I'll just tell you this, and I don't know why this thing came to mind. I went and watched Dorman High School. You know where that is, kind of, correct, Kevin?
Yeah.
I watched Dorman High School play Malden High School in like 1990 something for the Upper State Championship. And Malden High School had no players, 0 players. They were horrible, except they had a real tall guy named KG, a guy named Kevin Garnett. And they come running out on the court, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. They're playing for a state championship. Garnett had such a will about him, even at that age, at 17 years old, because that was his junior year, that he willed those other guys to be successful. And they're getting beat. They got beat in the upper state championship game, but you knew KG was going to be special because of how hard he played, and he was an unbelievable leader. I think y'all have kind of bottled some success down there, and a solution and a way to win at Wofford, correct?
Absolutely. That stuff is so important. And you got to be expecting to win. You've got to be somebody who's done that before. And just like the conversation we had earlier, you got to have a majority of guys who've done it. If the majority of guys have done it, that stuff bleeds throughout your entire program for sure.
All right, now listen, we got 3 minutes, so I want to know if I've got an identity to I want Wofford. You've got 1 or 2 or 3 things why Wofford is a championship level program now, when it used to be just okay, and now y'all a championship level program every single year. Give me 2 or 3 things that makes Wofford a championship level program that you can help young coaches try to incorporate in their program?
Well, the very first thing that comes to mind is We are a great practice team, John. A great practice team. We don't have to coach effort. We don't have to say, "Come on, man, this drill right here is so important," or "Hey, man, let's go." This practice right here. We need a good practice here. This team practices so well, and I think that we've taken a step. Last year, we practiced pretty good. Now we're returning almost everybody. We lost a couple good guys, but this team practices so well, and it's because it's competitive. We got a deep team. We got guys we got good players that don't even get in drills sometimes. And when they hop in that drill, boy, they're going hard. And I think that is such a good, identity for a team is like, man, this team's going to bring it every day. So we don't have to coach that stuff. We don't have to coach effort. We don't have to coach focus. We don't have to say, hey, man, let's lock in on this film. Or, hey, man, we got to have a good lift here. This team just brings it, and that comes to our internal leadership. And everybody knows you got to have good leaders. You got to have good culture, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes down to it, you got to practice well. And this team has done that. I'd say, out of the 100 whatever practice we've had, 90% have been really, really, really good. So that certainly helps. I think we're a very deep team. That helps, and that comes to recruiting and that sort of stuff. But take basketball away from it and the character of our guys. We don't have to deal with crap. We have no crap. We have no, hey, man, like, why were you out, doing this, that, and the other at night? Or, hey, man, I don't have to call guys up to the office and say, hey, man, why do you got a pouty face? Why are you worried about playing time? Why are you worried about that? None of that happens. We literally coach basketball. We don't have to walk them to class. We don't have to, make sure they're turning in that paper that they missed because they went on a Thursday, Saturday swing in SoCon on the road. We don't have to do with any of that. So when all you have to focus on is basketball and working on your team, and then when they come down, they're going to go hard. Oh, man. I pinch myself sometimes. I really do. But that comes back to Coach Young and having a culture and a program that expects to be that way. And I think that's going to bleed over for the next couple of years, and hopefully the guys we're bringing in are going to be the same way. But those two qualities, I think they practice well, and there's no extra bull crap. There's none. It's a beautiful thing. And, we can sit here and talk about our culture. We can sit here and talk about how good of players we got, how well we coached we are. Everybody knows that type of stuff, right? Everybody knows you got to have a well-coached team. Everybody knows you got to have a good culture and all that stuff. But if you practice well and you eliminate all the distractions, practice well, you're probably going to be pretty good.
Well, in college, I'm just going to tell you, and everybody needs to hear this statement. It's easy in college to eliminate your problems. You say, well, no way. Kids these days. No, as college coaches, you bring all that mess on yourself. If red flag after red flag is popping up in high school, and he's played at 4 different high schools and 17 different AAU teams, and he's got 2 different color shoes on, and he's got this on, and he's sulking during the AAU game. Don't think that ain't gonna happen in college.
Yeah, you ain't changing that.
Don't recruit him. As Charlton Young said, consistent behavior, coach. Consistent behavior. He's not going to change. Right. And so don't worry about that. So don't recruit that guy. Go recruit the guy that Huggins recruited the Carter kid because he was pressing by himself at 8:00 in the morning in an AAU game. Go recruit that guy. In high school, it's a little bit more difficult because you got what you got. But you don't have to keep the talented jerk on your team, because a talented jerk on your team is going to take, because it's a high school situation, he's going to take all the other dudes with him because he's not going to practice hard. Well, I'm sorry?
How important are families?
Oh, I think it's vital.
It's vital. Those family members, you better believe that college coaches recruit family members just as, we get to know those guys just as well as we do the kid, because what is he hearing? If he plays 10 minutes in a game and we win, is he hearing, that's a great win, man, that's a huge road win, great job, or is he hearing, why in the world didn't coach play you more? I think that stuff's important. That stuff's so important. What are the family members like? What are the big people in their life like? And we do a lot with that as well. I think that's so important. What are those guys hearing? Because whether we like it or not, they're with those people for 18 years and they're molded by those people. So that's a big deal to keep an eye on too.
young coaches out there, watch Wofford later on this evening whip up on Seton Hall. I think it's a tough matchup because they got tough guys too,
Yep.
and they got tough guys, and you got tough guys, and the winner's going to play Kentucky. But it's time. I think the Southern Conference is time for you to go on a little run here, Kevin Giltner, and make some money for the Southern Conference, so y'all have some extra money to spend later on. You'll get 2 parts of it. Everybody else gets 1 part. But good luck tonight. Make me a deal, though. When you become a head coach, and you'll be a head coach, that you stay with this same philosophy that y'all started at Wofford, that you don't take shortcuts, because that's the problem. People take shortcuts, and that's where people get in a jam.
Yeah, there's no quick fixes, and I will promise you that. I think there's no other way to do it. A lot easier said than done, right? A lot easier said than done, but I feel so incredibly lucky to work for a guy that has taught me that that's really the only way to do it.
Well, he's a sophisticated guy. People don't know that, but Mike Young is a redneck from Radford, Virginia, and now he's sophisticated. His wife,
don't let them fool you there.
They go to junior league.
You know better than that.
They go to junior league. I mean, they are high society in Spartanburg, and so. But
man, that's more Margaret than Coach Young. You know that.
Absolutely, she's a Southern lady. She's a Southern belle, and he's a redneck from Radford, Virginia, and I love it. Hey, y'all go kick tail. Thanks for your time. Thanks for teaching us a little bit about the game and about life.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Coach.
All right, buddy. Take care.
See you.